Don't forget, the Invincible podcast is coming to you live.
It's going to be taking place at the Islington Assembly Hall on Tuesday the 23rd of May. Tickets are available right now. Click the link and get involved now.
Come and join us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tactical Insight Show, and it's a debut for Turkish. It's a shame about the result, but it is good to have you on. Graham couldn't be here, he's very sorry. He's even tweeted out to everyone who does obviously engage with us on Twitter and in the comments to let you know they won't be here, but it's great to have you, Turkish. Shame about the result, but good to see you.
Yeah, what can we do? What can we do? My debut comes at a time where it looks like we're throwing all the good work away, but there's still time, there's still hope, there's still belief, so let's have a look at why what happened.
Absolutely. We're going to break it down, and this Tactical Insight Show, which despite the performance not being amazing, we hope the show is powered by NordVPN. Go check out NordVPN, link is in the description below, and a little bit more on NordVPN later. Let's look, when we do this show, obviously we go through lots of elements. We start on, we kind of go game by, it's moment by moment in the game. And the first thing that always comes out is the starting 11s. And when you look at this, I feel like there's not too much Mikel Arteta could have done. Obviously we find out that Zinchenko's not available, but you start looking at the run and you're going, we get Jesus back and Holding and Tierney are starting. Now, it's not a disrespect to them, but we know that they're not the first choice to be in that back four. And it's a shame when you see that going into such a crucial part of the season.
Yeah, it is. I mean, listen, injuries are catching up with us. Even the Tomiyasu one, it doesn't allow for maybe Ben White to come into the centre-back position, which he did for the whole first season he was here, and Tomiyasu to fill in the right-back slot. So what we have is what we have. We're literally down to our bare bones defensively now. You know, we're waiting to hear about the extent of the Zinchenko issues. It doesn't seem like it's too bad. But without him, without Tomiyasu, without Saliba, this is the defensive unit we have. Okay, you can add Kivior into that too, but for someone that hasn't been acclimatised yet to Premier League football and Arsenal Football Club, I guess it'd be a massive risk. Plus, left-footed, you don't often see a centre-back partnership with both being left-footed. So this is what we have, and this is what we have to make do with for the foreseeable future. It
is. Now, I don't want to criticise, take Kieran Tierney for example, I don't want to criticise him too much. I thought he was clearly trying to do the Zinchenko role, coming inside a lot, of making sure that the balance of play wasn't disrupted by having him in. The one thing though, having gone 2-0 up, we had him in the 11. A lot of people were saying after Liverpool, if Tierney had come on earlier, we would have maybe seen it out. I felt that actually, despite the kind of changes and maybe having two more penalty box defenders in Holding and Tierney, I don't think we looked any more solid in that game, to be honest.
No, we didn't. But at the same time, we're asking Tierney to do something that, in reality, he's still learning on the job with. This is all in hindsight, but we've actually spoken about it before. I think we need to get to a point where if Zinchenko isn't there, then Ben White's doing what Zinchenko does, but from the right-hand side, and that allows Tierney to overlap Martinelli a lot more, something I didn't see in this game enough.
I see what you're saying. So you're basically saying if we move Saka and Martinelli and Odegaard and Xhaka come forward, you actually think it should be White slotting inside,
I do.
And then you've got your back three.
I do. With Ben White, we know how good he is on the ball. He can play out at the back. We've seen him in the centre-back positions. He's played defensive mid before as well. So I think it'd probably be more beneficial seeing him invert than Kieran Tierney, because Kieran Tierney, I love Tierney, but in that role he looks like a fish out of water. I've
got to be honest, it doesn't look natural to him. And the other thing you could do, because I think this is important, when you get injuries, you won't always have like for like, but it's about what Arteta can do with the 11 just to tweak it slightly so that ultimately the patterns are the same, but you're getting people to more comfortable areas. I would even go one further and say that if you have Tierney doing what he does, and then you have the same back three, then at least have Xhaka doing the Zinchenko role from deep, and then Martinelli getting a little bit closer, because we know he likes to get into those pockets. But look, the point is, for everything we're saying there, Arsenal started really, really brilliantly and went 2-0 up within 10 minutes. And let's just have a little look at the match stats. And we're going to go with just the base stats for today. 16 shots for West Ham to Arsenal's 11. That showed you that, you know, we weren't under the same relentless pressure that we were under against Liverpool. But they more than deserve something out of this game, West Ham. 3 on target to our 5. Yeah, we had 72% of the ball, and an XG of 2.72. But again, a lot of that driven by Jesus on the goal line when he taps it in. The penalty as well from Saka. And that would have obviously, added to the XG, but really Arsenal didn't create enough for me to feel like they deserved to walk out with nearly 3 goals on the day.
Enough. I think that's putting it lightly. We didn't create anything, James. That first 10 minutes, we was in cruise control. We was hungry. We was out for the kill. We go 2-0 up, and it's like we took our foot off the gas. Aside from the penalty and the penalty miss from Saka, what did we create?
Yeah.
I don't think the word is enough. It's nothing.
No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. You're being kind. But like I said, we're going to go through the moments as they happened. I want to start with the opening goal because, look, amongst what was a bad day, I'm just going to come over here for a second. Amongst what was ultimately a bad day for Arsenal, there were positives on the day, and I think this opening goal shows you what Arsenal are at their best. And I think that first 10 minutes shows you what Arsenal are at their best. Really fluid, pulling teams apart. And West Ham, what we didn't actually touch on there in their lineup, they went 4-3-3. Usually we see them in the back five. Moyes can be quite reserved, but they went for it. And what I like about this goal is the way Cresswell's marking Saka and Arsenal manoeuvre it to find a situation in which they pull them apart. And from Saka playing that ball and coming inside, pulling Cresswell with him, it leaves that space for White, and it's a lovely little bit of football, and they find the opening and White overlaps. But Arsenal started, when people talk about pressure and they talk about the environment of a title race and all that, Arsenal did the hard work. Yeah. They started brilliantly. And when you see that goal, you can see that Arteta is coaching them week in, week out to create that sort of thing.
Yeah, when you look at the way we started the game, there's a lot of question marks over mentality and the pressure getting to us. But same with Liverpool. Yeah. Similar to West Ham, we started the game positively. We started the game hungry. I don't think it's a case of the pressure getting to us. I think we're makers of our own downfall. I think there's a bit of arrogance there. I think there's a bit of job done mentality.
Especially when you score a goal like that. Yeah. You think, oh, this is nice.
It's a beautiful goal.
Yeah, it's a beautiful goal. You touched on the word arrogance there. And I was reading some tweets from Tim Stillman, who you know from Arsenal Vision, and he said, I thought Arsenal might have injuries or might have the pressure of a title race and other things that might impact Arsenal blowing it in this title race in these crucial games. But he never thought arrogance would be one of them. And I'm with you. It feels like here we are on Tactical Insight. It's all about looking at tactics. But I feel like the main reason we lost is down to something that you can't necessarily measure in numbers and stats and analysis and stuff like that.
Completely agree. I mean, every great team needs a certain level of arrogance. I think that's part and parcel of being a great team. But to become a great team, you need to get over the line in major competitions. I think the arrogance we've shown in the last couple of games, going 2-0 up, very premature. I get it. We're playing great football. We've been the best team for the majority of the season. We've been leading the race, but we've done nothing yet. It's all good and well, playing well for 30 games, leading the race for 30 games, but if you throw it away in the last 8, then you're still some way short of being a great team.
That's a quarter of the season.
Yeah, so I think it's very premature to be showing signs of arrogance. At the same time, you need arrogance to be a great team, but I think, like I said, makers of our own downfall, considering we go 2-0 up, and then literally it's chalk and cheese for the rest of the game.
And I want to show you this. I kept thinking to myself, what are Arsenal doing that is allowing teams to sort of get goals out of nowhere when we're in such control? Now what I've got here is Arsenal's intensity drop 10 minutes before conceding the first goal. We've got the Liverpool numbers, we've got the West Ham numbers. Now these are all Arsenal stats. So 5 shots we had in the first 30 minutes against Liverpool, 3 shots on target, 3 big chances. In the 10 minutes before conceding that goal, not a single shot, not a single one on target, of course, and no big chance. Okay, attacking third passes went up. So that tells you that actually we've still got a lot of the ball in key areas, but providing nothing from that. Our take-ons dropped from 10 to 2. Our crosses dropped from 5 to 1. Our pass into the penalty area, okay, only half, 2 to 1. Ball recoveries, 19 down to 3. But our pass completion goes up because we're comfortable. Well, that might not necessarily be a bad thing because they're trying to retain possession. They're in a comfortable area of the pitch. But that is a massive intensity drop. For 10 minutes before the goal conceded against Liverpool, we weren't asking the same questions. And the exact same thing against West Ham. From minute 0 to 22, again, 3 shots, 2 on target, 2 big chances, 38 attacking third passes drops down to 6. 8 take-ons drops down to 1. 4 crosses drops down to 1. 4 passes into penalty area drops down to 0, and 12 ball recoveries drops down to 2. No shots. If you don't do anything with the ball for 10 minutes, the team are going to go, okay, why don't we just why don't we just press a little bit here? Why don't we just see if we can get into them a little bit there? And that's what Declan Rice did. Partey wins the ball back penalty 2-1.
Well, it's one thing not doing anything with the ball. From the ball recoveries, that's the one that sticks out to me the most. Going down from 19-3 against Liverpool and 12-2 against West Ham. That shows that off the ball, the intensity wasn't quite there either. And a lot of people looked at that Xhaka moment with Trent as the turning point, but in my opinion, the turning point is us going 2-0 up. And I think the evidence is in the numbers here. It's just like something switches, and at 2-0 up, there is that saying, 2-0 is the worst score. And I don't agree with that saying, because I think 1-0 is worse than 2-0. But at 2-0, that saying comes from the fact that your mind can then be put at ease that we're going to get the job done. And against Liverpool, when we went 2-0 up, I didn't say it out loud, but I thought we're going to get the job done. Against West Ham 2-0 up, I thought 3 points in the bag. But I don't want the players to be thinking that, because this is the Premier League. I mean, 100%. We always say the Premier League is the most intense league in the world. Anyone can beat anyone on their day. And in the last couple of games, we found out that taking our eye off the ball, regardless of being 2-0 up and in control, it can cost us. And it's cost us big at a time when a team like Manchester City are chasing us. It's the wrong time.
And look, Man City, they let off a little bit against Leicester, but they've got the Champions League. Think about it, they've got an FA Cup semi-final. They were 3-0 up and well into the second half. Arsenal here, they've only played 30 minutes of football. They've only played 20 minutes of football. And these drop-offs are staggering. And you're right, it is the ball recoveries. 19 and 30 minutes, 3 and 10. Now, okay, I know 30 minutes is longer than 10 minutes, but, that should be, what's a third of 19? 6, 7, whatever. That should be as well. We're talking about a third, a third of the 30 minutes compared to that. That should be 6. Arsenal's intensity 100% dropped, and that is really worrying, because it's like they get into that position, and we're on the WhatsApp group with Jordan. He was saying, "Go for it now, finish them, get it done," and they didn't. Now I kind of forgave against Liverpool because I can understand 2-0. There's something to protect there. There's something like.
It's Anfield,
It's Anfield, and actually they were throwing some punches, Liverpool, to be fair to them. But against West Ham, that is really, really poor. Let me, actually, touching on this, I want to talk about something else, just some of the goals and errors we have conceded in games very, very recently, and why we've been blowing some of these leads. I look at some of the goals. These are just notes. These aren't stats, numbers. This is just notes. I just write my thoughts down. But let's start with more recently. Partey trying to flick it over Declan Rice in the middle of the pitch. Gabriel diving in for the penalty. By the way, I don't think those should be penalties. Do you think it was a penalty?
No.
I don't think they should be penalties.
I think it was very soft. I
think incredibly soft.
Listen, I get it. Gabriel going down. He was rash in going down, and it gives Paqueta the option. So I think that's the first mistake there. But when you look at it in slow-mo, when you look at the amount of contact made, when you look at the fact Paqueta was looking for it, I wouldn't be giving those because it sets precedent, but we've seen VAR and these referees set precedent for the last 3, 4, 5 years now, and football's changing an awful lot. Any form of contact now, it's given in the favour of the attacker. I
agree, and look, this isn't a salty Arsenal fan talking about Tottenham. Well, it is a little bit, but in that one game to this one game, you got a Declan Rice handball, which was as much of a handball as the McAllister one, where they disallow the Welbeck goal, and then you got a stamp on Matoma's foot, not given, and you got a Gabriel one. Now I get different game, different ref, I hear it, but come on. Like, it should be literally flipped. Those two should, in my opinion, be goals and not penalties. And a penalty for Brighton against Tottenham. And in this one, I think we were a little unlucky with both. But I don't like the way Arsenal get rattled under an error. What Thomas Partey did in that moment, stupid. Don't do it. Why are you doing that? We're comfortable. Having said that, it's the way, I know it's one touch and then a pass from Rice, but it's like the panic. Stay on your feet, defend, and maybe force him to make a save, force a save out of Ramsdale. The minute you go down, you know what they're looking for. And you saw that in the way Paqueta's arms were in the air before he'd even made contact, because he thought, and players are smart with this, if I just touch this into the right area and I know he's coming, I'm going to look for this because I fancy a pen over.
His touch was heavy as well, so to be honest, that's the only option he had. Hope for some contact, go down, because if Gabriel didn't go down rashly, then I think we would have defended that situation. I don't think he would have had the opportunity for a shot on goal because his touch was so baggy. But
completely agree. And you look at those errors and they feel so frustrating. Holding penalty against Liverpool, cool, they didn't capitalise on it, but then Zinchenko nutmegged. Now again, I'm not going at these players, when you add it all up, soft goal against Leeds at 3-0 up, soft goal against Palace, goal from distance against Sporting that you're like, ugh. again, it can happen, is pinpoint. But sure, Turner Kivior confusion in the Sporting away leg. Too easy for Sporting on the second goal I've just put there. Goal from kick-off and a set piece against Bournemouth. You know, a lot of these goals, you look at and you go, in the moment you can forgive them, especially if you've won. You can understand that something happened or you got caught off guard or whatever. But when you start to tally them up, you start to think, this is just a bit shit, guys.
Yeah, you can't go from zero. Like, we can't go from 0 to 100 because you go 2-0 up, you get confident, you get a bit arrogant with it. I can understand that. But as soon as you concede, it's like you're going from 0 to 100. You're going from arrogant and confident to rattled and all over the gaff. There's no middle ground there.
You're right, you're spot on.
There's no like regroup, let's get a foot back into this game, let's, get back to our basics and go again. It's that we concede and then it's all hands on deck for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. Another reason, and look, people are going to go, really, you're talking about Rob Holding? How do I phrase this right? Rob Holding, I don't think did anything like clippable wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where you see a moment and you go, here, Rob Holding, bad, that was bad. But I definitely think that in the absence of Saliba, especially, and we saw it especially in this West Ham game, there's a little bit more of a, I don't know how to explain it, like Arsenal don't look as comfortable playing out the back and we seem to be going a little bit more long ball, but also there seems to be a bigger gap between the press and the defence. I don't feel like we're congesting and dominating that area and we're keeping teams pinned in. I think a lot of that is down to the fact that Rob Holding, or nor is Ben White overlapping, and I think a lot of that is because there is a bit of protection for Rob Holding's shortcomings, if you like. Here's Antonio's touch map. Now at first look you go, cool, a little bit everywhere, that makes sense. But if you split this in half, let's do that, let's get the square, and let's do it in yellow, fine. If you split the pitch in half, I'm gonna have to come all the way to your side there. It is still about 18 touches a counter. 1, 2, 3, we'll give them that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then 18. It's still about 17, 18 touches in the Rob Holding half for Antonio, compared to here where it's about 10, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. It still is more Rob Holding heavy. And I can't help but feel that that is on purpose.
100%. Teams are going to target him. When we've got our first 11 there's not many chinks in our armour from defence all the way to attack. But when we've got people filling in certain positions, it gives the opposition opportunity to target and get an advantage out of it. And you started with Rob Holding, didn't do anything clippable, and I'm with you on that. I think overall Rob Holding's come in and been an adequate backup, but his deficiencies are highlighted more in this modern day Arsenal because we need our centre backs to be proactive on the front foot, read the game well, interception, nick the ball in front of the attacker, and Rob Holding's an old school type of centre back. So the reality is when we see him come in, not only defensively is he targeted, but offensively we don't build as efficient enough. We're not quick in the transition enough. I mean, the last 10 minutes of the game, I don't want to fast forward too much, but the last 10, 15 minutes of a game where you have a team, any team, chasing a league title or looking to defend their lead at the top, you'd expect that team to have the majority of possession, the majority of chances created. You'd expect the opposition to have all hands on deck. There was none of that.
No, I agree.
There was none of that. West Ham probably looked the more proactive team in terms of trying to find another goal.
100%.
And I think a lot of that does stem from the fact that playing around defence too much, you don't have Saliba who's confident on the ball, can drive with it and split the lines with a pass. Rob Holding doesn't have that in his locker, so there was a lot of long balls to nothing. We don't have the attacking personnel to cope well with long balls. Yes, Jesus is great with his back to goal, but at the same time, he wants it into his feet more than he wants it into his head or his chest.
I completely agree. And how do you keep a team pinned in, especially when West Ham are smelling a victory perhaps, and you want Ben White to overlap to help Saka? I think that's part of why we've seen Saka struggle a little bit in recent games, because when you've got Saliba, Ben White's happier to vacate that space, so he overlaps and Saka isn't as outnumbered. But you haven't had that dynamic. Yes, White overlapped for the goal, I hear it, but that was within 5 minutes of the game. After that, we didn't see as much of it. And I completely agree. We didn't draw this game. I say we didn't draw because of Rob Holding. I'm going to show you something in a little bit. But largely, I don't think the performance, I'm not looking, 4 points dropped in 2 games, Rob Holding's the reason. It's not that. But why are Arsenal not controlling like we did Fulham away, like we did Brentford, other games where we did keep our foot on the gas? And I do think it's because there's a slight handbrake on, a slight reluctance to fully commit in the way we were. And I think that is allowing teams back into it. And that's why I think we've blown back-to-back leads. But look, I know this has been a little bit of I say a hard watch, we hope you're enjoying it, but it's been, not the most positive of tactical insights. We do have a tactical insight that we just want to show you right now. Have a little look at this.
Alright guys, we've all been there. You're based here, wherever you are, and now you've rinsed all your streaming platforms. You need to get a new show to watch, and it's only available here, in the US. Now, if you try to do this on your own, there's actually a lot of danger. You could, get slide tackled by some malware, for example, or you could get marked out, as you've got them here, but there's really annoying internet trackers. And there's a whole host of other threats as well on the counter-attack, such as viruses, malicious websites, or even intrusive ads. But when you're teaming up with NordVPN, you can open up a lot of options, as we can see right here. You've got your speed, of course. Guess who's in behind those threats? Because NordVPN is the fastest VPN on the market. The opposition just simply won't be able to keep up with you. And then, of course, you've got your next generation encryption, so they can't even really see you. And let's be honest, actually, for a second, that is a massive advantage already. And it's your multiple devices that we can see here in midfield that are going to benefit from all these things. You've also got strict no-log policies, and at this point, you don't even exist. The opposition would inevitably be thrashed. All these things come together to score you the fresh content that you all want and love. There you go, brilliant goal. You got your 3 points, you got your win. Hit the link to be invincible with NordVPN.
And with the AFTV special, you can save even more. Click the link to be invincible.
There you go, everyone. Go use the code AFTV at checkout, or go check out as well in the link below, nordvpn.com/AFTV for the AFTV special. Okay, so I said we're going to talk about the Equalizer, and I said you can't really blame Rob Holding. It's not just on him, but I'm really, really interested to get your thoughts on this Turkish. Here's the throw-in from Sufal. I'm going to play this along. When he goes for the throw here, it comes in. Gabriel, as you can see, wins this header. Cool. Out it goes. And it comes to Kere. I'm going to pause it there. This line here, which we can actually draw, forgive me if it's a little wonky, everyone, but let's draw it with green to show where Arsenal have held their line. Across here. Let's go from about there. Tierney, Partey. In theory, Bowen, Zuma, Souček, Antonio and Benrahma should all be offside. You know what, I've done it slightly wrong. But if everyone comes up with Gabriel and Partey in the way they have pushed up, Holding and White are the ones who are playing Bowen offside. But the thing that's crazy about it, I'm going to take it all the way back to the start of this. Partey starts the deepest. Partey's the deepest player, he's watching Souček. So when the ball comes out from Gabriel, we're going to show it again, he heads it out. Partey does move forward with the back line. And forgive me for the terrible line I drew earlier. It's Holding and White who don't get up quick enough. But my question would also be, have they been way too rash at 2-1 up? We've just missed a penalty. You know, the tails are up. Have they been too rash trying to get that far forward, or is it instruction? Where do you sit with it?
I think there's blame to lie with both halves of the defence. I think initially you look at Holding and White and they was too slow to get out. But then you also look at Tierney and Gabriel and say, look over your shoulder, make sure the line is there, because the goal does come from that side. So yes, when you're looking at it like this, you're looking at Holding and White and saying to yourself, get the fuck out. Yeah, you probably don't get much swearing on this show, but get the fuck out. But that doesn't mean that Tierney and Gabriel shouldn't be looking over their shoulder, making sure that the line is there, because those two are, you know...
It ultimately comes on their side. It's ultimately Bowen who's left alone. And the thing is, Martinelli's originally marking Bowen, so everyone is clearly in a rush to go out and press, and it's Gabriel who tries to get back, and Bowen's there. Could Ramsdale do better?
Oh, he should have done better. He shouldn't be getting beaten. The shot wasn't a rasping effort. Bowen done well, hit it off the ground. He got a good connection to it, but I think Ramsdale tried to, guess that he was going to go to the far corner. Probably took a step that way and then was beaten at the near post. I think he should have done better, but we also shouldn't be allowing a chip ball back into the box, leading to a volley straight on goal. I'm
always more defensive of goalkeepers when it's hit into the ground, because I think it could be so unpredictable. But you're right. I think he'll be disappointed with himself. And what I will say though is, it's quite poor just from an Arsenal perspective, because they will have plans. We went to the extent of showing how intricate and brilliant the goal was we scored. Everyone has a role to play. Saka comes inside, so White knows to overlap. Partey lays it off to Odegaard. It's all brilliantly planned.
Yeah.
You know, Martinez come inside, so Jesus goes out to the left. That's all pretty and lovely. We all have fun doing it when we're attacking. But you've got to do the same defensively. You all got to have the one mindset, the one unit, the one plan. When this ball is cleared, are we all getting up the pitch and playing them on offside, or are we sitting back to deal with the second phase? And you get, I'm showing it again, you just get that mess because Partey, the reason I'm putting it more on Holding and White is Partey does go up. Tierney, Martinez, they all go. So the fact that only two don't, I have to go with the majority here and say that Holding and White unfortunately play them on. And there's actually a good gap between where the line should be, according to Gabriel, because what you see as well when you're watching, obviously we can't really animate it here, but Gabriel's going forward and he's got his arms out. He's doing the defensive leader's role of saying, with me, and then when the goal goes in, he doesn't look at his defenders, he looks at the offside flag, because his first thought is, has everyone done what we're meant to do? So I do put it more on Holding and White, if I'm honest. At that point it's 2-2 and there's loads of time for Arsenal to get back into it, but they don't, and you're right, they created nothing. I think one cut across, I think Jesus probably could have done a little bit better to get there, but whatever, he made it happen, so we won't go too in on him. But Jesus is one of the players that actually comes off at first, and then he brings off Thomas Partey as well. While I'm bringing on the players he brought on, what did you make of those changes in particular as I destroy the tactical insight set?
When it happened, I said to myself, especially at the start of the season in the first 14 games, we looked at Thomas Partey and Jesus as indispensable. These players have to be starting every big game for us, have to start the majority of games. We can't afford to go into games without them or see out games without them. So it was quite a big decision for me. I do think Arteta needs to look at himself on the substitutions, because Saka was having a poor game, another poor game.
He was poor, I'll be honest, he was really poor.
Jesus was adding something at the very least. Martinelli added something at the very least. Saka wasn't in the game at all. And even that opportunity you said for Jesus where he just missed it, it did land to Saka, who got it caught under his feet, and that kind of epitomises his game, in my opinion. So I think taking off Partey and Jesus was a big move that didn't work out. Again, similar to the Liverpool subs as well. It didn't really change anything. It didn't really get a foothold in the game, and it didn't really help us create any chances.
You know, if the answer is Jesus still isn't ready, you know, with the knee and everything, that's frustrating. But I can only listen. I can only go, all right, fine. But when I'm seeing him do it a good 60, 70 minutes at Anfield, he comes off with leading. You know, he comes, to be fair, he was still on the pitch at 2-2 here against West Ham, to be fair. But he's created our only half chance to get back in the game. And he is probably the only player who is able to body 2-3 players out of the way, cause a little bit of havoc, you know, just open a team up in a different way because of his sheer determination to do it. Trossard can pick a pass, he can pull players around. But you could see that from literally the 15th minute onwards, Arsenal weren't doing that to West Ham. So I'm really surprised if he thought that was the best tactical way of approaching the rest of the game. I think Arteta's got it wrong. What I will say is, the capitulation result, I put 95% on the players.
Yeah, they,
you were 2-0 up.
Yeah.
You had it. You absolutely had it. But at that point, it's happened. Now Arteta, what are you going to respond with? I felt his response wasn't great, but I'll give him 5% blame at most.
When momentum goes against you in football, it's very hard to swing it back in your favour.
Yeah, so true.
More often than not, you need a moment. And we just failed to create any moment that, number one, can galvanise the away fans, who don't really need galvanising. They're always loud, they're always supportive. We didn't create that, and we didn't have no one in the box in the last 15, 20 minutes. I was looking around when we were passing it around and doing that old, rubbish again, without no real injection. There was no one in the box. So both defensively, we wasn't capable of playing it at the back as efficiently and as swiftly as we usually do with Saliba. But offensively, we didn't have anyone there really threatening in and around the 6-yard box, in the penalty box, to maybe get on the end of something and create a little moment
I
that
agree.
swings the game back in our favour. We just didn't really do anything.
No, I agree. I don't think the subs
kept
had the
the ball.
desired effect. I mean, I'll give him credit. I think going to the back three, bringing on Nelson, I say that. Bringing on Nelson was right. I just don't know why I got took Martinelli off.
Yeah.
Bringing on, who else did he bring on? Vieira and moving Xhaka deeper. Cool, I agreed with that. It was too little too late. And then he brings on Eddie, the one person who's a box presence, occasionally just come back from injury. And he got added time. I don't think he got a touch. So that I do think that was disappointing from Arteta. But look, he's had a lot of questions, especially we've talked about on Forever Arsenal, about his game management, Arteta at times. And yes, sometimes that can be frustrating. But I'm not putting this on him. I'm really not. Liverpool, I've forgotten about that now. This game in particular, the players, you had it in your grasp. And he threw it away from me.
And he pretty much said that in the press conference.
Yeah.
He said he doesn't understand why we go 2-0 up and then we kind of take the foot off the gas. He was pretty much insinuating there's an arrogance there as well. So, for any doubters during the game that thought this is what Arteta wants to be doing at 2-0, I think the press conference eliminated that. He doesn't want to see that. He wants to go for it and go for it again and go for it again.
And I think at 2-2 at Anfield, I think he'd have sat there in the dressing room at full time and gone, thanks for the fight, boys. Like, that was a mess, but thanks for the fight. And we came out with something. I think after this, I think he'd have lost his head. You know the way he did it at Goodison Park?
Yeah.
I think he'd have absolutely lost his head with them.
Rightly so.
Yeah, and rightly so. Because I think he'll be looking at them going, what have you done yet? I've been in a change room with Kevin De Bruyne and he doesn't act like that. I think he'd have given him that kind of thing. What have you proven yet? And he's actually said that before when Arsenal were going on a good run last season, chasing Champions League, they said, is the project becoming what you want? He said, we haven't done anything yet. And I think he will keep that mentality in them and hopefully we see a response against Southampton. Let's end on some positives. We don't have Graham for the roundup stats, which is a shame. Not a shame, it's great having you. But he does do his roundup stats very well. But I just want to leave everyone with the state of play right now. We said on Forever Arsenal that we could afford to draw with City and draw with Newcastle. And if I had to pick out what I thought the third toughest away game was, it probably would have been West Ham out of that run.
Yeah.
So, okay, now we have to win at Newcastle, or we have to hope for a slip-up against Man City. But what hasn't changed is the remit and what we've got to do at Man City. If Arsenal can go, beat Southampton and get a draw with City, then I think that might just reignite a belief in the team. I think at the moment there's a little bit of a, hold on, why has this happened to us twice? But hopefully that can reignite the team.
Hopefully, you'd expect it to. Something needs to reignite the team, that's for sure, because the last two, aside from the openings of the game, it's been very flat, void of real ideas and creativity. So a win against Southampton puts us 7 above City, then we go to the Etihad.
Yeah.
So we look at that game now and it's going to be a very difficult one to even get a draw out of. But if we can, then that would be reigniting the belief that we can get it over the line.
First and foremost is Southampton. I know a lot of people have been saying when that notification comes up, Martinelli, 2-0, 26th minute, they're all going to be having heart attacks because we've seen how that's gone for Arsenal recently. But look, fast starts aren't a problem. It's actually been a figure of our season. But you've got to keep that intensity. Yeah. So hopefully we've explained a little bit why and how here. Thanks to everyone who's watched the show. Thank you, Turkish, for stepping in. Really enjoyed it. Really loved what you brought to the show as well. Everyone get in the comment section. Let us know your thoughts. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and be with us on AFTV to check out everything that is coming out on the channel ahead of Southampton and, of course, reacting to this game as well. We just touched on City there, but we have to respond. The Emirates can be a cauldron. We can hopefully go and get a big win. I don't mean 5 and 6s. I mean a performance. I mean a result that gets everyone singing again and goes, okay, now let's take it to City. Because as Gary Neville said himself, these are the opportunities you want. He said, would we have all taken it? One game to potentially win the title, that might be what it's about. So go out there, Arsenal, get the job done in these next 2 games. Of course, there will be a tactical insight coming out on Saturday, we believe, at the moment is the plan, after the Southampton game as well. And go check out everything on the channel coming out later this week. Big thanks to NordVPN for powering this watch along, this tactical insight show. We will see you very, very soon.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.